In this video today, we are going to do some predictions. So, we've had a week or two since the bands have arrived in set 2 of Riftbound. Definite some changes have happened. In this video, I'm going to do my predictions for Lille and Atlanta, what decks I think are going to do well and what decks I think are going to win. So, this won't be a perfect science, obviously. Different things can change stuff in a TCG tournament. Draws, by draws, I mean literally what decks match up against each other. So, for example, Kaiser is brilliant into Draven. If a Kaiser makes top cut and then matches 3 Dravens along the way, she'll probably win the tournament. But if she goes into a 3 Aurelias, she probably won't win the tournament. There are things like that. But we're going to do a tier list where I rank basically all of the decks based on if I think they can win it. So, potential winner. Well, we're going to just put a winner here. Potential winner. Dark horse. Tiny chance. No chance. Now, the no chance is probably going to have a lot more than usual because there's just some decks that I think you could put the best players on the world and they're never winning them. So, we're going to start off with our good old friend, the Might of Damasha, Garen. I think Garen has 0 chance of winning this tournament. Garen's legend is effectively a non-legend. You rarely ever see it. Aurora Garen is useless compared to some of the others, but in set 3, Aurora Garen actually might be okay. It doesn't have any defensive stuff like Repulse. Garen is not doing anything at this tournament. Renata Glask, another one that I don't think... When I say no chance, these are the decks that... I mean, there's not a world in which these could win the tournament. Renata Glask, blue, yellow. It's weird because, like, Victor, I'm going to have quite high up. So it makes it like, why would Victor be high up? I just think her legend's not very good. And the recruits that Victor can constantly get out just synergize so much better. So we're putting Renata Glask in the no chance category. Then what else are we going to put in the no chance? I'm going to put Rumble there. I think Rumble is a fun deck. I think Rumble's a deck that could actually do okay at the tournament, but I don't think he's got any chance of winning. We will probably revisit this tier list in a few weeks after the tournaments have happened and see how close I was. But yeah, I think Rumble is another one that I actually think he'll do better than these, and I don't think it's impossible that Rumble could make day 2. You know what? We'll actually say day 2 candidates. We'll put Rumble into that. I think Rumble is one that could potentially get there. Lee Sin, I'm putting no chance. I think green and orange is an okay combo, but not amazing. Lee Sin's legend's not doing a lot. I don't think we'll see a Lee Sin day 2, but we might get 1 or 2 potentially. Leona, putting her as a day 2 candidate. And Leona does some cool stuff, but I think she's borderline not very playable right now. She just edges some of these. I'm going to put an On into there. I think On, after the latest nerfs to some stuff, got quite an improvement. I think On is still nowhere near some of these, but I think On is usable. Jinx, purple red is still a very good combo. She doesn't have Draven's signature or legend ability, whereas Draven's going to be high. I don't think that because of that, Draven having some extra, she suddenly becomes no chance. I think that the Jinx could make day 2. And the nice thing about this set, I would say, in my opinion, is that with the esport and the competitive events, the best of metals mean that you will see some of these cards at those. Darius, another day 2 candidate. For me, Darius, actually with the Death Knell, even in set 2, Death Knell Karthus can do some good stuff and blow some decks away. I do think this Darius will rely on matchups and he's not going to be very consistent, but I don't think that the Darius has any chance of winning. So any of the decks that are in day 2 candidates or below, I don't think could win the tournament even at their best. What else could go here? Teemo. I'm going to put Teemo here. I don't think Teemo will make day 2. I think Fight or Flight was a huge nerf to Teemo losing that. I think Teemo really benefited from Fight or Flight. It's arguably his best card. and the miracle versions of Teemo were actually okay. They're next to useless now, so I don't think Teemo's going to be very good. I think the bans hit him almost as hard as anyone, bar maybe Draven, but Draven was obviously much, much better in the first place. Volibear. We're putting Volibear as a day 2 candidate purely on the Aurora deck. I think normal Volibear can do some fun stuff, but is very inconsistent, and that would be a no chance. But the Aurora Volibear could potentially make day 2. Yasuo. These are not in any particular order, by the way. Yasuo, potentially pretty good. He has the same colours as Aurelia, who will be around here. However, his legend ability, chosen champ, and signature are not in the stratosphere of Aurelia. However, with fight or flight not existing, he effectively has a friendly fight or flight on his turn. That is pretty good legend after the fight or flight nerf. And I think Yasuo can do some good stuff. I think purple green is one of the best colour combos, but I just don't think that he's got enough about him to challenge for the tournament. Lady of Luminosity Lux. I think Lux can do some cool stuff. We saw 3 or 4 Luxes make day 2 of the recent events. The recent bans help Lux, you would argue. I don't think it's enough to push her into a potential winning the tournament, but she's still got a solid, pretty good stuff about her. Is there any other ones that I just think have 0 chance of winning? I'm going to go Azir. I think Azir will probably make a couple make day 2. Don't think there's enough there to give him a chance of winning the tournament. Probably going to go Ari as well. I think Ari is a potentially pretty strong legend. I think some of the band stuff didn't help massively. I don't think set 3 she looks bad either with the Blue Sentinel coming in. But again, I think she would need a bit more of a push to be able to win a tournament right now. Okay, we're going to Dark Horses. Sivir, MF version. There are some stuff that have hurt her, which I think push her closer to day 2 than winner. But I think she can do some pretty nutty stuff. When this deck pops off, it's very hard to play against. Jax. I think the nerf to Jax is, or the rule change that I think shouldn't have been able to work on Jax for anyway, has hurt Jax quite a bit. Some of the other nerfs have helped Jax, which is pretty useful on him, of course. However, I think that nerf to the other things basically balanced it out for him. I'm going to go Annie. I think Annie is very solid, but she definitely got some nerfs. I mean, the nerfs, if without the nerfs, she'd have been closer to the top end of Dark Horse and maybe a potential winner. But yeah, I mean, Annie's a pretty solid one. Her legend ability is always just going to be really good. Getting to basically have Targon's peak every turn. Set. I think fight or flight getting nerfed is amazing on set. The problem for set though is until set 3, where he gets repulse, he is still very vulnerable to spells and rebuke in particular. Rebuke is so prevalent amongst a lot of the top decks. It really does hurt set. But he does have some very good matchups into some of the really annoying high-end decks. And fight or flight being an amazing tool against set is really good. That means basically rebuke and fight or fly, which are the 2 main counters to set and Fiora. Half of them are gone, which really helps set a lot in my opinion. Is there any more Dark Horses? I think Ezreal, I think he's... I'm trying to put these in a bit more of an order, I would say. I think that Ezreal's borderline potential winner. I think there are some cool stuff that this deck can do, but he did lose a lot of his cool weapons, and Obelisk was another good battlefield for him. And obviously, you can't really run the pure miracle versions that we saw before. I'm putting Fiora at the top end. No fight or flight's nice for her. She does have riposte. The reason I'm putting her above Say is because she does have riposte for potential rebukes. And some of her worst matchups got hit quite hard. She's not really lost anything, in my opinion. So, a lot of love for Fiora there. I think she's pushing that. And then potential winner. Again, we're still doing this in an order. I'm going to put MF Aurora at the back end of this. I think that MF Aurora is one of those decks that It's not the most consistent, but if it does get the nuts and get some good matchups, I do think it could potentially win. I think Set Free, Elder Dragon, Baron video that we did yesterday talking about that could potentially be very nutty as well. I'm going to go Rek'Sai next. I think Rek'Sai benefited a lot from the changes. Nothing Rek'Sai uses got banned. Rek'Sai, when it gets going in the game, is just oppressive. I think it's going to be more consistent now without Fight or Flight to hinder it. And there's a lot of annoying battlefields for it. Draven is still very good, but Draven was one of Rek'Sai's worst matchups because Rek'Sai wants lots of combats. It's risky to do it into Draven. Fight or Flight, again, being nerfed huge. I'm going to put Yi next. I think Yi, very, very strong. There is mid-range and Aurora versions. Again, Fight or Flight means with the green colour counters now, Yi can block most things. And I think Yi has pretty good matchups into a lot of the pretty good decks. We're going to put Lucian next. Now, Lucian, for me, is a very, very powerful deck. The one big problem Lucian has is gear hate. Lucian is so reliant on gear hate and salvage, fading memories, but in particular Thermo Beam, which is run by a lot of pretty powerful decks. Two of the top decks we've got, Draven and Kai'Sa, Voidborer, Rek'Sai, can all play Thermo Beam. They don't massively rely on that, so they can sideboard it, and if they see Thermo Beam into Draven, they probably just win the game. However, again, Fight or Flight being nerfed is huge for Lucian. The buff to Lucian on Sunken Temple games. Lucian, I do think is going to be there or thereabouts. I think there's a good chance of Lucian makes top cut. I've seen a few more unit-based versions from people like Damon XGG talking about Lucian. I think he is in with a decent shout of surprising people. Like I said, this bit here is literally my order of how good I think these decks will do. I'm not ordering the day 2 on no chance because they'll be a bit random. Okay, I've got top 4 now. How do I pick these? It's really tough. I do think some of these are like kind of luck of the draw, what matches what. I think some of these, like, I think if Kai'Sa plays Victor's and Draven, I do think Victor's actually okay into Kai'Sa fair, but if Kai'Sa plays a bunch of Draven's Lounge, she'll probably win. If she plays Aurelia, there are Kai'Sa decks that are pretty good into Aurelia with the tech like Get Excited and Time Warps. I am going to go Kai'Sa next. I think, how do I put it? I kind of want to put another category. Can we put another category? No. How do we do this? Is there a way to add another row? We can add a row below. I'm going to put a top cut one. The potential winner is that I think they've got a decent chance, and then top cut is I expect these cards to make legends to be making top cuts. Obviously, there's only 8 at each, but yeah, we're going to put Kai'Sa in there. Any of the top cut and above, I think, are very likely to win. I'm going to put Draven next. And that Draven is very strong still. We saw in this recent big New Zealand tournament with 300 odd players that Draven still did very well. The nerfs obviously did hit Draven, but purple and red in particular with Draven have lots of great cards still. So losing the Fight for Lights, he could still put other stuff in. He's still got Spirit Axes. Losing his turn 2 really good card, Vanquisher was annoying, but Showboat actually can be pretty good in Draven in a lot of games. Found testing it, that's pretty good. Second light out between Victor and Aurelia. I'm going to put Aurelia. So that means obviously we're going to be putting Victor in as the winner. We've got Aurelia there as the second most likely because I think she does have some issues. I think Kai'Sa's do now have tech that could beat Aurelia with the Gate Side Time Warp discard that could blow Aurelia's out. I think Victor is very, very good into Aurelia. It's not like a blowout matchup that Aurelia has no chance, but Victor is quite favoured in that matchup. I think Victor's worst matchup was Draven, and I think that Victor now is a fairly okay matchup for him. Hence, one of the reasons Victor's top. I think Victor's very consistent. He can't brick. We've already seen a Victor at top 4. He's one of the least affected by these bans. Aurelia losing Dreaming Tree and Firefly as well. Very big. Aurelia, if she gets the Stellar Corns going, wins games quite often. But I think that Victor right now can sit really high up. So, yeah, this one is an interesting one. I'm not confident on this necessarily. I'm pretty confident on the winner to Dark Horse that these are better than all the day 2 and no chance ones. But yeah, maybe we'll come back in a few weeks and look at this and say, oh, Zell, you're an absolute idiot, or Zell, you're a genius and you predicted it right. Interested to see what people think. I'm very interested to watch the tournament. Competitive Riftbound's always exciting to watch. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Do you think I've got any of these massively wrong? Is there any that you think are pretty spot on? I'm interested to know what you guys think. See you guys in the next one. Peace.